Texas A&M, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. It's the ABC game of the week. We're going to be there. The whole new Saturday tour is going to have us right there on the sideline. But basically what I need to tell you all, outside of these two fan bases, is we got what we wanted. Back in August, a lot of us, myself included, looked at this and said, oh, wow, that's right. We get Texas and Texas A&M again. And then some of you, 18 years old, 20 years old, 21-year-old. Most of our audience is under 30 years old. A lot of you hit me up and said, hey, I get they're close geographically, and they used to be in the same conference, but why do you keep making such a big deal about this? And I smiled. I wasn't sarcastic. I just smiled, and I said, you're going to learn something this year. And this Saturday, some of you are going to learn something about just the pure, unadulterated, unfiltered, unexplainable hatred. Hatred, contrary to what even Meemaw used to teach me, is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it can be a good thing, and it's a great thing in rivalries like this. The winner's going to Atlanta, and when I say we got what we wanted, what I hoped was that there would be implications on this beyond just the rivalry. Because look, these two are going to get into a knife fight no matter what. But someone in Reno, Nevada may not care as much if one or both of them were out of the playoff race or the SEC championship race. Well, they're both in both of them. So we got what we wanted here. So now I got to ask Quinn Ewers, what are you going to do Saturday? Because this is a major Quinn Ewers game. Make no mistake about it, there is a gear that we saw them hit with him at quarterback against Alabama 2 years ago. And if you think about it, they've been a really good team. They've been one of the best in the country collectively. But I have not seen them hit that gear again. And I still believe it's there. I picked Texas to win the SEC. I picked them to go, I think, all the way to the national title game in the preseason. I picked them to do that because I think that gear is there. And they're still in contention for all that. And I guess it's a compliment to say they're in contention for all that, and I still think that extra gear is there. A&M is much better against the run than the pass, and I'm teeing all this up to say, hey, if it's there, maybe we'll see it click into gear here. They've got a really explosive and capable set of pass catchers. The A&M secondary, little paper popper of a stat here potentially, the A&M secondary is 100th or worse defending passes of 30, 40, 50 yards. In all those categories, they've been had. To a large degree, they've been had. So I've sat there and watched Texas. I've seen them play multiple times this year. They're, of course, undefeated when I watch them in person this year. But it hasn't been definitive. It hasn't been slam the door, Quinn Ewers over the top, and all those receivers. And maybe that's just not them this year. And that's okay. They can still win if it's not, but it certainly tees them up better to win if it is. Texas A&M's defense has been a letdown to me and that fan base over the past few games. They allowed 44 against South Carolina, 43 against Auburn. That was an overtime game, but still, it got to overtime because A&M's defense just not quite what it had been, which is disappointing because the players, man, I thought they had the gas in the tank to be a defensive-oriented team the whole year. And maybe Kyle Fields enough this Saturday. You know, maybe the redemption is there. This is a top 25 pressure unit. I think about Georgia, ironically, a couple of different ways here. I think about Georgia in a sense that this Texas offensive line got against Georgia. Georgia had 7 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. So there's that. And then there's also Texas going on the road and having to, you know, try and operate in what will by far be the most hostile environment that they face all year. And I mentioned Georgia because I also can't help but remember Georgia just a short time ago go into Ole Miss. And that Ole Miss group of pass rushers got after Georgia. And Kirby Smart talked afterwards about how it's really tough to go against that group of pass rushers in this environment where your left tackle can't hear anything. So maybe that's how A&M flips this game. Because on paper, it looks good for Texas. But number one, we know what this is worth when it comes time to tee it up on Saturday. And number two, the way things have played out is not always the way they do play out. Here's the hardest part for me. Texas is what they are defensively. They are a high-level unit. As it relates to the country this year, Texas is an elite unit. They are top 15 against the run. They're number 1 in defending explosive plays. And so if I start to ask myself, if I want to take Texas A&M in this and I start to ask myself, what do they need? I think you need 24 plus to win it. I think you'll have to get above that. And you can do that however you want to, but I can't factor in, I can't predict special team scores, defensive scores. So I got to assume that offensively, Marcel Reed's going to have to get the job done here, and Texas A&M's offense is going to have to get the job done here. A&M's 81st offensively on third down. Texas is top 10 in the country defensively against third down. So there's a lot of stuff that has to be overcome. But I'm telling you, this is not a game. I'll say it one more time. I always shake the paper. It's not a game played on paper. If it was, it would be undefeated picking games this year. And number two, it wouldn't be worth watching. Emotion is such a huge part of college football, and it will be at a premium. You will never see an emotional outpouring, just like a guttural hatred, like you will in this game when Texas comes into Kyle Field. Colin, let's take a look at what the model thinks. So right now at FanDuel, Texas is -5.5. Our model pretty much agrees. We've got Texas -6. I made some predictions about Texas in the preseason that I'm way too deep in to back off of now. But, man, I think this could be a dogfight because I do think the staying power is there. Like, I think about A&M on the road last week. I think about a lot of these SEC teams on the road last week. And to me, if everything's still in play for you, the only thing that's changed here is you get to be the home team now, and they got to come in your building. And I don't really care what happened last week. Last week matters nothing to me as it relates to this game. So A&M absolutely has what it takes to win this thing. Texas is my pick for a reason. I am sticking with Texas. I think their best football is still in front of them. They need to find it this week. I am going to take Texas to win. I don't like the points. I think they're one or two too many there. I disagree with the model. So I think it's going to thread the needle. I think it's a very, very close game in the fourth quarter. So anything above 3, I'm actually taking Texas A&M plus the points, which is, it's a tightrope to walk there. I'll take Texas to win. I'll take A&M to cover. Neither outcome would shock me, but I am so happy. Just as an unbiased observer, if you live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, you get to see what this is all about. And I know a lot of you have been waiting a long time to see what I was talking about with this game. You will see this weekend.